Well, we like to answer our questions on our Facebook page for Fearless Faith. And whenever we open it up and ask for questions, we get just flooded with questions. And so our last podcast, we didn't even get to half of the questions. So tonight, this is part 2 of all of your questions, as many as we can answer. I'm your host, Dan Wheeler. This is Finish Strong, and Terry Steen and Brian Rowland join me. And guys, we never lack for questions.
Never lack for questions. It seems appropriate that this is the last podcast of the year for us. Can you believe we've done this for 3 years now?
It's hard to believe.
Pretty amazing.
Yeah. It seems like it's still pretty new. But Brian, we've been doing our Morning Cups of Inspiration for almost, it'll be 8 years in February, I think.
Coming up, yes.
Yeah. Well, let's get right to the questions, all right? First one comes from Jim, and he asks us how we pray for the people we reach who ask us for prayer with our, Facebook page, with our, podcast and YouTube and all the things. We get a lot of questions, and we get a lot of people who ask us for prayer. So whenever I see someone who asks for prayer, I stop what I'm doing and I pray for them right then. And I try to, make it just not a quick prayer or hurried thing, but really pray for them. Mm-hmm. And I think you guys probably do the same thing, don't you?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. You almost have to right then, because there's so much going through there that it's out of sight, out of mind if you don't do it right then, huh?
Yeah. And I remember when our neighbor, Christine, had her back problem, and we were over with her and Tom, and you were here, Dan. And you were going out the door, and I said, "Hey, Dan," I said, "She wants us to pray for him." You said, "We're praying." And you run right back in and start the prayer.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah. And she felt better, didn't she?
She did. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Well, that's good.
There's way too many Christians that will say, "I'll pray for you."
Right.
And then don't do it. And I think
a catchphrase.
Fearless Faith has helped me be more proactive. And if someone says they want prayer, whether it's on the phone or whether it's right there with them, you just stop and pray with them right then.
Mm-hmm.
Right. Yeah, I see so many people on Facebook when someone's going through a hard time. Well, I'll be praying for you or sending prayers, and you do wonder. But we want you to know we do pray for each and every request that we receive. All right, this next one, the question, Terry, I think you're going to lead us on this one. Is it a sin to question God in stressful situations? And that comes from Sherry Ann on our Facebook page.
I would say no, it's not a sin. I mean, he understands. God created our emotions. God created our feelings. He understands when we go into stressful situations. Go back and read Psalm. If you look at David questioned God many times throughout Psalms, and God is not afraid of our questions. God is not afraid of us to share our emotions with him. He created the emotions, but I guess the key is at the end of the day, we have to trust God. We have to believe that he's going to guide us. We have to seek the positive emotions, not the negative, but it's definitely not a sin to question him. He understands that.
Well, I was thinking of Gideon when God told him he was going to use him against the oppression that was coming against Israel. Yeah. And he asked God for fleeces. He made God give him signs, even after God told him he was going to do that. And then, let's see, the other guy that came to mind was Thomas. He doubted. He said, until I put my hands into, the nail prints on his hands, and I feel the scar in his side, I don't believe that he's resurrected. And then Jesus showed up in person and said, "Yeah, go ahead, Thomas, if you're going to doubt, check it out." My hands and my side.
He was very patient with us, isn't he?
Yes.
Yeah.
Brian, here's one for you from Kathy. Will our pets be in heaven? I mean, we all love our pets, and we talk about Rainbow Bridge, but what do you think?
Well, we've shared this before, and I'll tell you my personal feeling is that, yes, they will be there. And I'll back that up by saying over in Revelations 19, it talks about Christ returning on a white horse. So where's the horse going to come from? It's got to be coming from heaven. It's Christ returning on a white horse, because it talks about later too how the Antichrist tries to imitate Christ by going into the temple on a horse, and he's trying to do the same thing, but that's here on earth. But he's going to be coming back on a white horse. And then if you look over in Isaiah, in chapter 11, it talks about Messiah coming from the lineage of Jesse, but it starts talking about what's going on in the future too with the Messiah. And in heaven, it talks about the wolf and the lamb will dwell together, the leopard and the goat will lie together, the calf and young lion will be together there, the cow and the bear will graze together, children will play with around cobras' holes and stick their hands in vipers' nest and will not be bitten by these animals. So yes, I think they're going to be there. And another reason is, and this is my personal thought, dogs don't hunt, and cats and animals don't have souls, but angels don't have souls either. But there's angel spirits, and I believe that they can dwell in some of these animals. When I see how the healing that comes from animals, and how people, that's their only friend they have here on earth, that God has placed with them, you put this together and you go, I think someday I'm going to walk up there in heaven, and my first dog Rodney's going to come up to me as an angel and saying, "Hey, I like the way you treated me," or that one time you were really wrong. I really believe that they're going to be in heaven with us.
Interesting, good thoughts, Terry. We've had a lot of questions about the rapture of the church. There's pre-trib, mid-trib, and post-trib. But we've also had a lot of requests from Gene and Bev and Betty Lou asking about John Hope coming back.
Yeah, John, of course, as you know, he's my brother-in-law, and we've had him on a number of times, been very popular. So why would we as laymen want to take on some of those end-time discussions? Why don't we leave it for John? If he messes up, we'll blame it on him.
I like that. I like the good. So
let's just have him on turn of the year sometime. Yeah. We'll get him on soon, and then we'll just have a special podcast just for some of those questions.
I like that plan, because there's no doubt he is more of a theologian than we are. Boy, does he know
I
Scripture.
get more notes taken when he's on.
I know. Yeah. It's amazing. We got a question from Robin. She wanted to know, how do other religions compare to Christianity? I'm going to tackle this one. It's estimated that there are something like 4,200 different religions on the earth. I mean, there's all kinds of isms, Zoroastrianism, Taoism. Brian, you remember when we worked on the New Age, there were all these isms. Buddhism. I'm going to talk about the big five. Judaism. Okay, they mainly believe in the Torah, the first 5 books of the Bible, and the 10 Commandments. But they don't believe that Jesus was the Messiah. That they missed him, his own people. I'm talking about Orthodox Judaism now. Then Islam, Muhammad, he was being persecuted by the Christians, and he kind of created Islam. Islam is known as the way of the sword, and it's basically preaches that Muslims, are going the right way, and Jews and Christians are the infidel. So that's very different from Christianity. Hinduism, God is basically in everything and everywhere. And so that's finding God in nature a lot. And then they also believe in karma and reincarnation, that, what goes around comes around, and you'll come back in another life. Buddhism, Gautama Buddha basically believed that the goal of Buddhism was to escape our physical body, and that's what we needed to do so that we could have a deeper spiritual relationship. But there's not a mention of God or a savior. The only one that does mention a savior is Christianity. And by the way, all those other people that founded, Muhammad, Buddha, their tombs are not empty. Hinduism is just a belief that God's everywhere. Christianity has a tomb that's empty because
that's right.
The Savior is risen. And Christ is the only leader of any religion who claimed that he was the Son of God. He was basically equal with God, and he predicted that he would die and raise again in 3 days. And Scriptures written 800 years before he ever came here prophesied his coming. So To me, a lot of people say, "Oh, all religions are going the same way." No, I don't believe it. All religions are going this way except for one. Boom, going back the opposite way. That's Christianity. That tells me, guys, it's the truth.
Yep.
Yeah. Good job.
And I don't need to be told that. We know it when you have a personal relationship with Jesus. A question from Maryland. Maryland, were we involved in VBS and church camps?
That's an interesting question. I did. I don't know about you guys, but we, of course, our church always had VBS every summer, which was something fun to look forward to. But then we had a couple churches around our neighborhood that would have it. And so my mom was sick of the boys and would shoot us off to another VBS to get us out of the house for the morning anyhow. So we went to 2 or 3 of them over the course of the summer. And really, they're great foundational schools to help you learn the Bible and learn more about God. You can't go wrong with that. I went to a couple church camps as I got a little older, and those were very impacting to me. Some of my greatest spiritual experiences in sensing the presence of God were at church camps, when that's the focus and you're around other Christian kids your age.
Yeah, I was actually saved at a church camp. So they're very important to me. And I went to VBS. One of the songs I remember learning, Brian, as a child was "Climb, Climb Up Sunshine Mountain."
And doing the motions.
Yes.
Right. Oh,
faces all aglow.
Yeah.
That's right. No, we did too. My sister and I went to Vacation Bible School. We loved it. And then our church camp, I actually started going there when I think it started like in 7th grade in junior high and then on. And looked forward to it every year. Just loved it. Just loved it. And then my senior year, they actually had after my age group, they came in and they had a special camp. And if anybody wanted to come back again, and I went back for that second one that year too. It was just such a great time.
Well, that leads us into our next question, Brian. How do we? This is also from Maryland. She wants to know, how do we keep young people in church later so that they remain Christians? It's one thing to send them as kids, but what about when they're growing up?
Well, that's the most important thing, is to send them as kids and to get them in the church and Sunday school and that, so that they're learning right from the get-go. In Proverbs 22:6, it says, "Train up a child in the way he should go, and when he is old, he will not depart from it." And I think there's something there that people miss. It says, train him as the way he should go, and then there's a pause. And when he is old, he will not depart from it. I can't tell you anybody that I can think of that didn't want to try something on their own at one time or another. I remember going to my dad and talking one time, and he says, "Brian, this is what's going to happen. This is what's going to happen." And I'd say, "Yeah, well, maybe that's what you say, but I want to learn for myself." And he'd say, "Okay, but I'm just going to tell you." And when you know it, everything he said, it happened. It happened just like he said it would. But my parents always, they brought me up that way. They brought me up right. They taught me right. And then here's the key. Keep praying for them. Keep praying for them and cover them. You just got to keep covering them. Because
and keep
you may be gone, but God is still working on them. And he says they will not depart from it. They'll not depart from that.
Well, I think a lot of parents just, if their kids don't want to go to church, they say, "Okay, no problem, we'll stay home." That's not the way. I mean, until they're adults, they're under my roof, they're going to church. That was my philosophy.
Yeah, they need to lead by example, and then they need to establish the family priorities. There's so many families out there that take their Sunday mornings to go play sports, but don't take them to church.
Right.
And they're establishing priorities that are going to be ingrained in these kids as to what's really important in life. And then the church needs to be welcoming. The church needs to provide that learning opportunity environment for kids to want to go to church. So it's two sides.
Yeah. But, I think if the kids learn that if they cry or they put up a fit, that they get out of it, then you've lost control of them.
Yeah.
So it is important. All right. Here's one from Judy. Do you believe in near-death experiences and glimpses of heaven? And I do. Brian, you were there. Beth was seeing heaven near the end of her life, during the last day or two of her consciousness, and she said it was beautiful. My mom, when my grandmother was dying, we were taking care of her, and she told my mom, Marge, I need some water, but hurry up because I know today's the day I'm going. And she was seeing people. She'd say, Mark, do you see who's next to you? That's Uncle Johnny. And over here, there's Don. Don is here. And my mom's like, what? She's looking around, but she was seeing it. So I think God gives glimpses of heaven. And I'm going to recommend a book, and I've got to reach for it because
don't strain anything.
It's called Imagine Heaven by John Burke. This is a great book. And after Beth died, I was out on a Friday night. I went where Beth and I used to go on a Friday night when I was off, and it was a Barnes and Nobles, and there was a Starbucks there, and we'd always drink coffee, and we'd get books and look at them or magazines, and then we'd put them back and leave. And that was fun. But I walked over and I said, Lord, man, I need something. There was a book, a table just with books that were on sale. And this one caught my eye, and I got it. I've recommended it to so many people. These are near-death experiences. He interviewed 100 people. Many of the people who were Christians who had died had very similar visions of heaven. They talked about the intense color. They talked about how you just know things, you communicate, you don't even have to speak. But there were others who had the experience of hell and heard screaming and demonic figures. But, what do you guys think? I mean, the Bible does have a couple examples of glimpses of heaven.
It talks about with John in Revelation. I mean, he saw heaven. It was either a vision or he was taken there. But he describes it the best that he could for his knowledge in that day of what he knew and how he could describe it, which was hard for him and a lot of times to describe. But he did see that. So that's one instance in the Bible that talks about seeing heaven.
My mind goes to Elisha and his servant in 2 Kings, the 6th chapter. Elisha's with his servant. He's in a city, and there's this king that's after Elisha because Elisha was revealing information that only God could tell him. So they get up in the morning, they look out over the city, and there's all this army of soldiers. And the servant was scared. He didn't know what to do. He said, "Oh, my Lord, what should we do?" And here's what Elisha said, "Don't be afraid. Those who are with us are more than those who are with them." And Elisha prayed, "Oh, Lord, open his eyes so he may see." And the Lord opened the servant's eyes, and he looked and saw the hills full of horses and chariots of fire all around Elisha. God pulled the veil back and allowed this servant to see the spiritual power and the angels that were there. And we have those same protective angels and forces that we can't always see. And every now and then the veil will get pulled back to reveal that to us, won't it?
Yes, certainly will.
That's fantastic.
But while we're in the flesh, it takes money to survive and live. And Terry, this next question's for you since you're our CFO. How is Fearless Faith Ministries supported financially?
Well, that's one thing that we have never put a strong emphasis on. As you know, we've never taken a salary, but it does cost to exist and do all the things that we do. So basically, it's through financial donations. We have individuals that have committed on a monthly basis to help us. We have individuals that just do a one-time gift here and there, but we have an established 501c3 organization, so we're able to take tax-deductible donations, and we're doing that. And the Lord's been blessing us in that way. As we've just finished our Giving Tuesday, that comes up once a year. And we're just like dollars away from hitting our $3,000 goal. So we are very grateful and thankful. But I will add that our YouTube channel is coming so close to being able to be monetized. We're about, if I remember right, about 500 viewing video hours short of YouTube's requirement to have ads put into some of our podcasts that would allow us to generate some revenue through that. So we're probably going to play around with that and see if that's beneficial to us or not. And maybe that would be another source. We have products available on our website. We have our devotional book. We have a few mugs left. And then we have Dan's book. So some of those are also available as fundraisers. So that's kind of that's kind of how we keep this engine moving forward.
I was going to mention that on the YouTube, the ads that they put in there, they're supposed to be appropriate to our viewers. They would be,
right.
They would vet those out, and they'd be appropriate to that. And that's it.
Yeah. Okay. Boy, I can't believe how these questions, we have trouble getting through them. But Brian, we'll have you lead on this one from a guy named Anonymous. How did your upbringing influence who you are?
Very much so. As I said before about leading a child, and that's how my upbringing was. But another thing was that in my family, every night after dinner, we would have what we call family altar. And it was a time where we sat around the table and we read a devotional and then got into the Bible and talked about it. And my buddy, one of my best buddy, Mike Enright, he lived across the street. He used to come over and listen with us at times and sit there, so he can verify this. But we would always have discussion. And that was the one thing that happened in my family, that there was no generation gap thing going on. My parents always wanted to know what I was thinking, so I would tell them. And then my mom would say, well, why do you think that? And how do you backing that up? And I had nothing. I got it from a teacher. I heard it on the street, anything, but that was my belief. And she'd say, okay. She never said I was wrong. She just said, okay. She goes, well, here's what I believe, or here's what we believe. And she'd tell me, and then she'd back it up with scripture. And every time she would do that, I had to back down because I believed the Bible too, and I was going to be my foundation. I was going to live on. I just wasn't prepared for it yet because I wasn't intelligent enough and wasn't studied enough. But that really hit home because she always would back hers up with the Bible. And
you couldn't debate with Mama Joe, could you?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, I feel the same way. I mean, my mom, I remember her making me kneel when we'd pray to show respect for God. Mm-hmm. We'd have devotions, and I have very vivid memories of that. And, when you are old, you will not depart from it. Boy, her prayers have gotten me through and pulled me back from the edge many times.
Mm-hmm. My parents did the same thing. I do remember Friday or Saturday night, frequently, we'd get together, have to all sit there, read the Bible, turn around, get on our knees, and then everyone had to pray. And it was very unique in doing that because it taught me to pray publicly. It taught me to formulate. There are so many people that are Christians that are afraid to pray out loud because they haven't done it enough to really learn the importance of that.
Right. I just hope your dad didn't make you do that in front of the fireplace while a fire was going, because that could be smoky. That's a joke. I visited Terry's home one time in college, and his dad had put in a new fireplace, and I think he forgot to put in a flue or something. I don't know.
It didn't go high enough, and the smoke all started coming back in.
We're going... You're going, Dad, it's really smoky. And he's laying right in front of me going, oh, if you guys don't want me to put it in, I won't. I shouldn't have put it in. He's just laying there. And we can hardly see each other. There's so much smoke. Terry, how do you keep little things from bothering you? That's a good
like
question.
Smoke coming in.
That's a good question, because with me, it's not the big things. I can handle the big things. But when a million little things start adding up, I tend to lose it.
Yeah. And it's frustrating because the Bible tells us the importance of count it all joy when you have these situations in James 1. And then Philippians 4, it talks about how joy should be deliberate and intentional. So we know what we're supposed to do, but that little stuff can really get to us, can it? And I think for me, from a practical standpoint, I would say the thing I try to do is look at the big picture. If something's going wrong, it's a little thing, but it's irritating. But if you step back and look at this and go, what's the worst that could happen? What could how impacting is this really going to be to my day or to this project or to this situation? And know that our days and our steps are directed of the Lord. He knows what's going to happen and go on, and he's allowed that to happen to see how you'll respond to it. So if we can get that kind of thinking in our head, I think that would help. There's so many, that saying that says your bad days are somebody's good days. We have to keep everything in perspective. And if we'll have that mindset, I think that'll help.
Yeah. Brian, I'm going to go to you after a brief comment on this next one. what was your favorite period of life? We were kind of talking about this one the other day, and for me, it was high school and college. When I think back to playing sports and just the camaraderie, and I think it's because you're with a lot of guys your age and friends your age who are just trying to figure out life, and you're figuring out together. I mean, I remember the first time we did laundry in college, Terry. I'd never done my own laundry, and I think we dyed a lot of stuff pink. And we used to race to the laundromat and see who could do it the quickest and get back to the dorm.
Our wives would die 1,000 deaths if we did our laundry that way now, because we just took everything we had, jammed it in to save 75 cents,
Exactly.
and then poured the dry powder, the soap in that stuck into all the clothes, and then.
Wow.
But mine was college too. Mine was college too, because you didn't have responsibilities yet, but yet it was the first time you had freedom. So you had freedom, but you weren't accountable or responsible. So that was a sweet spot in life to really have some fun, wasn't it?
Yeah. And Brian, you liked it so much, you tried several colleges.
Several colleges. I stuck around a little longer. But I wasn't sure if I still liked it better in high school or not. No, but that was great times, and I agree. I thought of the same thing, but I have to say right now, I'm having the best time now because of everything I've gone through, everything I've learned, everything that I can weed in and out of what goes on in life today. I can enjoy life a lot better, and I'm where God has placed us. I love it here, and I think I'm having the best time right now.
Good for you.
Like that song, I wish that I knew what I know now.
Yeah.
I wish I knew then what I know now. Yeah. Okay. What quality of life do you value most in others, Brian?
When this question came up, first thing I thought was honesty. I value honesty in a person because so many people will tell you one thing and do another. And they'll blatantly lie right to you and just go on as if nothing's ever happened. And but I really look for honesty in a person, and I know it ties into a lot of other things, which I'm going to let you guys share. But it all seems to come together. But honesty is mine.
Terry?
I think mine's a little variation of that, but first thing that came to my mind was integrity. I think that is so important in a person. And if you find someone that has true integrity, that are the same behind closed doors as out in public, you know you've got someone of value and a friend.
Yeah. First thing that came to my mind is loyalty, and loyalty of having friends like these guys. You know, we tease each other a lot, but I know that if anybody said something against any one of us or about us, we would rise to their defense and say, you don't know this guy. You know, that's not true. And, you know, you fight one, you got to fight all three, right? The three amigos.
That's right.
Not that we're fighters. Okay. We don't promote that. And finally, this is the final question for 2023, guys.
Yes.
What is a routine you do every day? Terry, you can start us off.
Well, typically in the morning, mine's threefold or throughout the day. But the first thing is get up, have my devotions, and pray. If you don't do it first thing in the day, there's so many things that can get in the way and take you off your plan and off your course for the day. And then typically I will do some physical exercise. And then the third piece of a routine would be to read. I try to read every day. So I'm trying to develop my spirit, my body, and my mind every day. And if you get the routine and the habit of doing that and get it instilled, it goes so far for you.
That's good. Brian, do you have any routines?
I'm not following that. No.
I know. You made it sound really good.
Yeah. I'll go to the end of the day. At the end of the day, right when I'm getting in bed, I will lie there and I will review my whole day in my head as to what took place, what I did right, what I did wrong. So many times I'm going, God, I blew it that time, didn't I? You know, blew it again. You know, but I reviewed the day to see how I handled myself and if I was pleasing or not to God.
Yeah, that's good. The first thing I do is I open my Bible app. I look at the verse of the day. I hear a little 1-minute message there. Pam and I have our devotions. We take our little dog for a walk. And then when we come back, I usually play our videos on Fearless Faith to see what you guys are up to and see if I did an okay job. And And that night we close the day with prayer, and we kneel both times. And it's really been a powerful experience to keep us close. And I think it's important for couples and families to do it. Well, guys, what a year. I guess after the new year, maybe we can talk about resolutions, goals we have for the new year. But I think we're kind of out of time on this one, but it was fun.
It was.
What a great year, guys. I've enjoyed it so much.
Yeah. It's been such a great year, and who knows what, I know the Lord has good things in store for us in 2024.
Yeah.
Amen.
Yeah.
Looking forward to it.
So should we give a happy new year on the count of 3?
I like it.
Okay, I'm going backwards. I hope this doesn't throw you off. 3, 2, 1. Happy New Year.
Happy New Year.
We're so lame at that. And when I said 3, 2, 1, I went 3, 2, 1. Well, obviously, we all need the Lord. He's the one that gets us through this. And we need our producer, John Matarazzo. We want to thank him. But another great year of podcasting. Remember, this is all about finishing strong. God bless everybody.
Thank you for listening to Finish Strong. For more information about Finish Strong and Fearless Faith, check out their website, ffaith.org. Make sure that you rate and review this podcast to help more people accomplish their God-given purpose so that together we can finish strong.